Good evening, guys. We're back again with another analysis on the Azimio petition. Today we are going to look at the good facts of that petition. I've picked a few for our discussion because there are several good facts which we may not cover in this short video. The few that I've picked relate specifically to numbers which may be argued in the Supreme Court. So straight, I'm going to go to the first allegation. Number one, Azimio is alleging that there is a difference of 140,028 votes between the total number of votes or voters recorded in Form 34C and the total number of voters identified by Kim's kit. That can present not so serious allegation because it can be explained. IEBC could say that the difference is because Azimio did not take into account the number of manually identified voters, which if you add, they could insist is probably the 140. They could say people are allowed to make arguments. However, the second allegation only serves to raise further question and actually defeats such kind of a response if at all IEBC would give it to the Supreme Court. What are they saying with respect to their second allegation? They're saying that Chebukati had said in his first briefing that 65.4% of the registered voters had turned out to vote. 65.4% of the registered voters is equivalent to 14,466,779. And this is a number that was identified by Kim's kit only. At that particular point, you have not added the number of manually identified voters. Indeed, Chebukati said in that same media briefing that this number is expected to rise once the manually identified voters is taken into account, or the number of the manually identified voters is taken into account. What came out eventually, however, is that the Form 34C captured only 14,213,137. That is quite interesting. Why am I saying it's quite interesting? It's interesting because at the point Chebukati was briefing the nation, he said 65.4%. That is 14,466,779 people had voted. And these are people who had voted through Kim's kit. They had been identified through Kim's kit. And therefore, there was the expectation that that number will only go up once you add the number of manually identified voters. What happened, however, in the final count, that number reduced by 253,642 votes, which means that instead of going up, it came down. The over 250,000 voters or votes just disappeared and cannot be accounted for. Some have argued, I've heard these people, some people argue that Chebukati came later and corrected that issue of voter turnout. I've not seen such a clip, but now that it is in the petition, it would be interesting to see the response from IEBC. Nonetheless, we must pose the question as good citizens, where good citizens have to pose this question. Everyone, including what Kenya Kwanza, Azimio, it doesn't matter where you, who you voted for or which side you are. Where did Chebukati or the chairman get the 65.4% voter turnout? That is a question that we must ask ourselves. Where did that number come from? We may even proceed and be more curious about these issues because, again, what is the role of a citizen? We pose questions, we raise issues. This is a matter of the sovereign will of the people. So was this number part of the larger scheme of things? intended to bungle the election or to rig it? Is it a number that has now eventually come back to bite Mr. Chebukati? We will see that in due course, depending on the kind of response they are going to give with respect to that allegation. Lastly, and I think this is the most important bit, because it had arisen in 2017 petition, where the judges probed about the 2 million voters who came to the polling station, voted for the president, and did not vote for any other candidate. They did not vote for the governor, they did not vote for the senator, they did not vote for the position of the women rep. The question was, if you come to a polling station, you are given 6 ballot papers. As a voter, you decide you only want to vote for the president. Where do you take the remaining 5? Senior lawyers could not answer that question. And that question, in my view, is going to be asked in this particular election again. How did so many people in Ruto's stronghold go to the polling station, voted only for Ruto, and then disappeared with the rest of the ballot papers? I'm saying that because ballot papers must be accounted for. You cannot consider those papers, ballot papers, as spoiled, and you cannot consider them as rejected. Where did those votes, or where did those ballot papers go? That is a question that is very fundamental, and that is going to give a lot of advocates from the IEB side a lot of headache. We, however, as people speculate. I've seen videos where some woman is claiming others were given 2 ballot papers. Could be true, may not be true. But I wonder the scale of it. How many people were given 2 ballot papers? And how sure again are they that they may end up voting for William Ruto? Or was it just a question of taking the risk because that is a stronghold? Or rather, was it just a question of tampering with the forms after people had successfully voted and everything well done, and then the presiding officers, the ROs, decided their own volition to just tamper with the forms? These are questions that Koome Supreme Court will have to deal with. They will have to raise these questions. And these are the same questions that Maraga Supreme Court could not get any answer to. That marks the end of today's discussion. Tomorrow we'll proceed and do a bit of the bad facts in that petition. For more on this, therefore, keep it here. Subscribe and click that notification bell so that you are notified whenever we post.